What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing my 1992 Nissan Skyline GTST Type M. There is so much to go over with this car. I got it about 8 months ago, and it currently has 104,000 kilometers, which is about 65,000 miles. It's been an absolute blast, and I can't wait to share the experience I've had with this car with you guys. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So to start out, like I said, I got this car 8 months ago, literally right on Christmas Eve. I traded my old Subaru WRX for it, my old 04 STI. If you guys are older with the channel, I had it about a year ago I was posting, 2 years ago I was posting with that car. But anyways, I basically did a straight up trade with this car. And also I got a few other goodies, parts and whatnot. And it was an absolutely amazing trade in my opinion. Getting this car has been absolutely amazing. Definitely the best purchase trade I've ever made. This is an absolute legend of a car, the R32 Skyline. This car obviously is from Japan, so it is right-hand drive. It was imported a few years ago, and I know it was imported a lot in Florida. I don't know the exact details of where it was imported and whatnot. There is no rust on this car, barely at all. And with this car being 25, 30 years old now, it runs and drives perfect. It's an absolute blast to drive. It almost drives better than my 370Z that's sitting up the road here. But this car has been absolutely amazing. So let's dive into the details of why this car is amazing. Nissan started making the GTSTs and the GTRs in 1989. This is a 92, so this is 3 years over the production when they started, and it's been an absolute amazing car. It's aged so well. This car is 30 years old and it looks better than 90% of the cars on the road today. This car was definitely repainted though when it came over from Japan. There are a few spots where I can see it was repainted, but usually cars that are repainted from Japan typically do a really good job. A lot of cars that come over from Japan are repainted, so it wasn't really a massive deal in my opinion. Whoever did it did an amazing job. This car doesn't have any rust. It has this stock wheels, which is a really cool feature, I think. But if you guys look under here, I mean, really clean. The color code for this car is KL0, and that is spark metallic silver. This silver color looks really good in my opinion, and I really love the way it looks. There are very few mods on this car as well, which is extremely hard to find. These cars in Japan, as you guys know, are like one of the most legendary cars, and they are very modified, especially in Japan. So having this car only having the Tomei Catback exhaust, and I did that, by the way, I did that little mod because I wanted to hear that RB, and it only has like a boost gauge and digital tachometer. That's really it. That's the only things really that are mods on this car, and that is really rare to find in these cars for sure. And this is a Type M as well, so it is a little more rare than just the regular GTSTs. One thing that I didn't notice when I got this car is it has the GTR headlights, the GTR grille, the GTR hood, and it also has the GTR tail lights. I'm not sure if that was done here or over in Japan, but they chose really good, really good options, because I love the GTR tail lights. That is definitely one of my favorite things about this car. The GTST taillights, they look okay, but obviously the GTRs, in my opinion at least, they look a lot better. When I got this car, it had a few things where it needed to get touched up. You guys can see the speakers are out of it right now. I'll show a picture of what it looked like when I got it. It had these big Alpine speakers and a lot of wiring in the front of the car that were like these LED light strips and all that stuff. And I just decided to tear it out, take out all the wires, and it looks so much better now. I'm gonna show you guys what it looks like. I mean, yeah, you guys can see, I mean, it looks way better. I have a radar detector in there. One thing that the Skylines are known for is a lot of this trim gets cracked up and is really kind of crappy. Same with like the molding and whatnot. I mean, it's a 30-year-old car, and that's one downside to this car is definitely the molding. That's probably the worst thing about this car, to be honest. That's one downside of having this Skyline, is it's very hard to get parts as well. Parts aren't readily available. There are some companies that make parts for this Skyline, but a lot of them are insanely expensive, and it is really hard to find like specific items. All right, so taking a look under the hood of the GTST, this has the RB20 DET, so it is turboed. The turbo sits right down there. You guys can't really see it. It's kind of behind the heat shielding there. But yeah, it has the 2-liter inline 6 turbo. It makes 212 horsepower, and this car only weighs like 28 pounds, so it doesn't weigh very much, but it doesn't have, you know, a lot of horsepower. It definitely gets up and goes pretty quick. It's not like super fast by any means, but this car, you know, for, like I said, being 30 years old, it gets up pretty well. So the only things really done under the hood is this air filter. I mean, it doesn't even have a full intake. All it is just this Blitz air filter, and it also has a new battery. A lot of people overlook the RB20. This motor is very strong at stock power. Even if you want to modify it, these internals can handle probably up to 450 wheel, and that's on stock internals, which is pretty impressive. Internally with the RB20, it has a very good bore thickness and wall thickness. It's just as thick as the RB25 and the 26, so the block itself is very strong and definitely can hold its own against its bigger brothers. Like I said, this car weighs about 2,800 pounds. If you get, you know, specific models, sometimes the weight changes, but this car is rear-wheel drive. Obviously, compared to the GTR is all-wheel drive. All right, so getting a closer look inside the R32 Skyline. Obviously, it is right-hand drive, and I am in America. And I remember the first time I drove this car, it was kind of like, holy moly. This is like a dream come true driving on the right-hand side. So this car is obviously in kilometers. I do a little math while I'm driving, but obviously that's what they used over in Japan. Nothing too crazy. On the left-hand side here, we have the little boost gauge on the top right here, and then we also have the gas gauge down there. We also have the light switches up here, and we also have the fog lights, the windscreen defrost. We have our hazards. We have our tune kind of radio controls. And then what's really weird is with the Japanese car, the blinkers and the windshield wiper is flipped. So on a left-hand drive car, the blinkers would be on the left and the windshield wipers would be on the right. But the blinkers are on the right on this car, and the windshield wipers don't even really have like a little, you know, notch here. It's actually up on like the cluster here. Pretty cool. You can get this car in a 4-speed automatic or a 5-speed manual. I was kind of disappointed that it was a 4-speed automatic, but I daily my 6-speed 370Z, so it really wasn't a massive deal for me. And a couple cool features actually about the automatic is it has this power mode. It just gives you a little more power, better throttle response, and just, you know, better torque changes and whatnot. So this car used to have a clock. This used to be the clock, but this is now a timer. This is like a track timer. This car might have been tracked in Japan, but I really can't see too much wear and tear, especially on the tires and whatnot. The gear selectors are right up here. Definitely a new steering wheel. This isn't the stock one. So this is a 2-door coupe, so the back seats don't really have like any room, like at all. Nothing, like really, you got to be really small to get back there. But the cloth seats actually aren't horrible. So I want to show you guys a cool feature this car came over with from Japan. This is an electronic toll collection system. Basically, this is how they paid for tolls in Japan. That is really cool. So basically what that lady is telling me is that I don't have a card in the system really reading. So it's just saying, hey, dummy, like you don't have a card inside the electronic toll collection system, because that's how they paid for tolls in Japan. When you drive, you just put your toll card in there, and basically you just drive and go. You can go through tolls. It's basically like a fast pass, and it'll just charge your card every time you go through a toll. In the middle here, we have our AC controls. Obviously, we got AC, defrost, air go around ambient. We have our up and down, and obviously it is in Celsius. So you have to kind of mess around with that and see what feels right. And we have our different modes and fans and whatnot. This car was upgraded to a Kenwood radio station. Nothing too crazy. You know, I wanted to get Apple CarPlay in this car, kind of like get rid of this tray. It's just a little tray right here, but I want to get rid of it and do like a little Apple CarPlay right there. We also have our e-brake right here. Pretty strong e-brake. And one thing that really sucks about this car is I don't have any cup holder. This is not a cup holder. It's more of like a center, you know, console where I can put some stuff. And then right here we have our another center console. I just have some microfibers in there right now. Not a very big one, not a very small one. So when I got this car, I was very interested to see what this was. And basically this is an emergency flare. So it's an emergency flare. So if you were to get stuck on the side of the road, you would pop this guy and kind of signal that you're like in trouble and you need help. I thought it was really cool that they put this in the car and it's still here after 30 years. Let's get this Skyline started up. Like I said, this car has the Tomei catback exhaust and is also fitted with a Tomei test pipe. So it is decatted with a full catback, so it is pretty loud, but it sounds really good. That never gets old. I love that sound with that electronic toll collection system. It's so cool the way it talks to you in Japanese. I think it's really cool. It's a really cool feature that I really like. Now, first things first, obviously I am on the right side of the car and I am in America, so it is a little weird. I remember the first time I drove this car, it was very weird to drive, you know, being on the right side. You have to get used to it, and obviously you get a lot of attention with this car as well. A lot of people, you know, even if they don't know the car, they see you're on the right side and they're like, what the heck is that guy doing? It's also funny as well, like at gas stations, like seeing all the attention this car gets, you know, with even if somebody doesn't know the car, or it's car guys, they just like take videos of me and send it to me. It's really funny, and I really like the attention. It's really fun. Also, for a 30-year-old car, this car drives better than a lot of cars on the road. It's got new tires, and the tire width is only, I think it's a 205 tire. I think it's 16-inch wheels, but it's on stock suspension. It does sway a lot, obviously, but it runs and drives perfectly fine. I'm really impressed with the way this car has been handling. I've had it for 8 months. I've only driven it about 1,500 miles. But it is a very excellent car with the RB20 DET. You get the turbo noises, you get the little blow-off valve. It sounds really good even in stock form. And obviously I have a full Tomei catback exhaust with a Tomei test pipe. So the RB sounds in this thing are absolutely amazing, and it sounds so good with that straight six. I love the way it sounds. This car gets up and goes pretty quick. Yeah, it's not crazy fast by any means, but it's something that'll definitely kick it in the butt when you give it some gas. The 4-speed auto, a lot of people complain like, oh, it shifts slow, or it's kind of a crappy automatic, but in my opinion, honestly, it's not too bad. Here and there, yeah, it can be kind of iffy, but for a 30-year-old car, I'm not going to expect it to shift like a modern car, like an automatic car, but I honestly don't mind it at all. It's pretty sweet. And obviously with the 4-speed, like, it has this power mode button down on this side here, and it is pretty cool, honestly. I do like the power mode with the different torque changes, quicker throttle response, and it revs out all the way to red line, and it's really cool in my opinion. I do like that a lot. God, I love the turbo noises in this thing. The turbo noises sound so good. And the way the RB sounds at higher RPM, even at lower RPM, sounds really good. And honestly, I'm really surprised because it doesn't drone at all in the back. And that's one thing that's pretty cool. Like with this loud of exhaust, it doesn't drone like barely at all in the car. Now, Japanese people really like to modify this car, like I said. So it does have like a boost gauge, which you don't need it. It's a stock car. You already have kind of a little boost gauge on the gauge cluster for the stock cluster. It has like a little boost gauge, and it has a digital tachometer up here and some like little tweeter speakers and whatnot. And this car obviously is a legendary car in Japan. These cars were very popular to go on toge runs and even drifting sometimes. This is a GTST, so it's the rear-wheel drive. It was pretty... So I'm going to close this because I'm getting blinded by the light. It is very modified all the time, these cars. But this one, I'm very surprised that the previous owner took very good care of it. It's really hard to explain the feeling driving a Skyline in America. This has been my dream car for years now, and to actually drive one is absolutely amazing. And to even own one is just amazing. And this car, it's so refined, and the rev range, the power is so linear in this car. And I love the way it is. It runs and drives great. Obviously the price points, Skyline prices are going up like crazy now. Let's get on it a little more so we can hear that RB. Now, a couple things to look out for this car is really nothing stock-wise. Like if you're running a stock car like this, there's really nothing too much to worry about. If you start adding boost, the oil pump is prone to go out and obviously have some oil starvation issues. You're gonna throw a rod bearing, whatever. But that's one thing to look out for these cars. A couple things else to look out for with this car is the trim. The trim is not really good. I mean, obviously, like I said, it's not going to be perfect, but the trim is going to need to be replaced in this car at least. But for the most part, honestly, I can take it off, sand it, and prime it and throw like some black spray paint on. I can definitely do that in this car. It's definitely not impossible, but definitely I'll be able to do that. And this car around corners does very impressive. So we are parked now, and there are a few things that I want to go over. It's kind of hard to go through everything when I'm driving. It's kind of hard to think about everything. So one thing to look out for with a Skyline is this bubble dash. It's very common to have bubble dashes on the R32 Skyline, because in Japan, a lot of owners keep this car outside, so it's not uncommon for a car to have the bubble dash. Not a huge deal. You can get an R32 Skyline dash mat. They have like a little carpet kind of rug thing that goes over. It looks really good. I was thinking about doing that in this car, but like since I'm selling it, it's not really a huge deal. Is the AC and the heat both work actually? So we're gonna turn the AC on here. It is a little hot outside, so okay, we don't need it that high. The AC is really good actually for a 30-year-old car. It's pretty good. Also, it is obviously in Celsius, and with the speedometer it is in kilometers because that's where they go off in Japan. But honestly, I got used to it pretty quick, because if you go like 95, 100 kilometers, you're going about 55, 60. You're going somewhere in there, so it's kind of wet in there somewhere. And there's no cruise control in this car. It's old. It didn't have that. Which isn't a big deal as well, because I don't really want to set the cruise. I kind of just want to drive. One thing to also note in this car is I am 5'10". Okay, I am 5'10", and sitting up straight, I have about an inch of room. Okay, and if you're 6 foot, you're not going to really fit too well in this car. Oh, jeez, I already hit it too hard. You're going to be hitting the top here pretty hard, and my knees are pretty bent, and the seat is all the way back, and I can fit the pedal really well. I feel pretty close, but I am right, like perfect. I am pretty perfect in here. If I was a little bit taller, it would not be good. But this car obviously is a two-door as well. So there are rear seats, but there is like no room. I'm gonna measure it right now. There is about that much room, leg room, for somebody sitting in the rear. So if you guys have bigger friends, they're not gonna fit very well in this car. But honestly, I like the two-door a little bit better, because I don't like having a lot of people in my car. It's just too much going on, and I don't know, I just like having just one other person and not have my car crammed. But pretty cool. One thing to note as well is there is a lot of aftermarket support for this car, obviously. The problem is that if you're trying to get OEM stock parts for this car, if something breaks, it's very hard to find, because obviously all the parts are going to be in Japan, and a lot of it is either really expensive, you can't get it, or it's just non-existent anymore. Like, it's really hard to find. It's a 30-year-old car, so a lot of parts are discontinued, are really expensive, or you just can't get them. So I've had instances where stuff is broken, and I've gotten tried to order it from Japan, and I've got my money back saying, oh, we don't have it anymore, or it's just crazy expensive. And that's what kind of sucks about having this car. But there are a few companies in the United States that have websites where they post like parts where you can buy off there, but a lot of times it's really expensive. I'm only posting once a week, which kind of sucks, but I want to post more for you guys. I'm in college right now and I have school, so next summer I'll try to post like 3 times a week, but as for right now, I'll just keep posting once a week or so. One thing I like to add is a Skyline ownership. Owning a Skyline will change your life. I know it sounds dramatic. I know some of you guys are like, what is he talking about? Like, he's too connected. No, I'm actually being serious. Like, I've owned a few cars, through the past few years, and this car has definitely been my favorite. Easily my favorite. It has been the fastest. It hasn't been, I would say it's not the best looking either. I think my Subaru is probably the best looking car. But just the way this thing drives and the attention I get, owning a Skyline, you're going to get a lot of attention. And I've, had a lot of people on social media like reach out saying nice car, like looks clean, and that makes me so happy. And I love the way the community has reacted to this car. That's why it's really changed my life, because it's made me a lot happier owning it. It's just a blast to drive. The turbo noises, the RB sounds. The people I meet at the gas stations, even people that don't know the car. The car will be like, "Yo, you're on the wrong side of the car. Like, what's going on?" And I tell them about it. They're like, "Oh, that's so cool," and it's just a good feeling to have. So I thank you guys as well for all the support. You guys have been absolutely amazing. I have some advice for you guys. If you guys see a Skyline that you want, or you're in the market for a Skyline and you see something you really want to get, go for it. Thank you guys for watching the video. Please like and subscribe and comment down below if you guys have any more ideas you want me to do in the future. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.